Pushed stop on accident. This is part 2. Alright, now we got this motor off of there. We got it unplugged from the module. Bam. I actually unplugged the wrong one before. I followed the wrong one back. So now, for taking this off, you can kind of see I left it in there a little bit. Now what you want to remember with these, again, make sure you're working with the right motor. You don't want to, the correct motor I should say. So these are the ones we need. So we need to put this lever back on this motor. Just disregard this hairy one. Alright, so I'm going to flip this up so we can see this. On here you can see there's a little hole. If you pull up on that, it will actually retract. You might need to persuade it just a little bit. There you go. Okay, so that pops up out of there. Now be careful, that will go down very easily. Very easily. So when you're putting this back on there, you need to make sure your arrows are pointing in the correct direction and your screw head is going into that hole. So let's rest this down very softly. The way I can do it. There we go. Make sure your hole lines up. And then you ready to go. Here it is. Tighten that up. And then it should grab that enough to cycle back and forth. We'll try it. Okay, tighten down, not coming off. It is a little movable, but that's to be expected with that motor. It will move just a little bit. Now, you can see a little picture of an indicator on here. Drive is backwards, neutral is forwards. Right now I have it pointed that way, so this motor should not move, which it does not. If I click it forward, this motor should move, which it does. It is on there correctly. Time to put it back on the chair. Before we put it on the chair, I told you earlier that we had shorter bolts, some short, some long. If you look at the top of this motor, it comes out of the bag from the manufacturer like this, okay? But if you come up here, you can see we are missing this entire row of screws. The reasoning for that is the ones that come in this first hole need to be taken out before you put the chair back, motor back on the chair. So wherever now, sometimes it is in your benefit to reuse the screws that you take out of the chair before, just because sometimes these aren't always long enough. They work sometimes. Just depends on what model you're working on. But yeah, so get all 3 of these out of there, and there we have it. Matches, same style, same side. Got your neutral and engage switch on. Now you're ready to take it to the chair. A good rule of thumb, just because this thing is so nasty. Got my compressor over there. I'm going to blow out all of this gunk to try to prevent another motor failure. Here's your motor mount. That's what your motor rests on. It's just a welded plate to the top of your frame. Attaches your crossbar. There you have it. Alright, so here's the deal. You're going to use the long ones in the holes that you took out the short ones. Okay? So the 3 long ones that you took out of the motor before are going to go in this. Now the reason for these are longer is you've got this little recess here, here, and here that those short screws if you were to use them in the front, will not thread all the way into that motor. You see that. Now, this one, when it's tightened all the way down, it will go deep into that motor. You can see how much inside that motor that is. So if you hook this up wrong, and they go over a hard bump, and you only have 2 threads in that front side, that you could cause the motor to come off of there or the motor to break. And that is a big problem to somebody that is in one of these things. So make sure you hook it up right. Okay, so after I put my extension bar back on there and I put all the long screws up here and all the short screws back there and tighten everything down, now I have this connection pin that needs to go to the module. So what we want to do is we want to stuff it up back behind so that it's not on the outside getting caught by everything, and run it up and under with the rest of those wires. Okay, you have successfully changed the motor on an Elite HD. Now for me, I enjoy zip tying my cables in order to keep my patience up and going, because loose cables oftentimes get yanked on things like wall jams, and I don't want to have to go deal with that just because I was negligent enough not to zip tie a couple things down like this right here. If this gets caught on the wall, I will pull on that. That is directly wired to the top of your motor just with a tiny wire. And I don't want to have to come back out and redo another motor for this. So, zip tie. Bam, zip tie. No more cable issues. Okay, it's time to put this wheel back on now. If you notice on this motor, there is a groove cut out. Okay, that is for what is called a keyway. Okay, so on your other motor, you should have it still there, or most of the time, they send you brand new ones, which this is what I'm going to use because I don't want to touch that thing again. So, okay, there's your 3 pieces. Put the key on the motor first, right inside that little hole. It should slide right in there and fit nice and flat. Now, this can go in here wrong. So like if you put it the opposite direction, so say like that, and technically you could have a not go all the way down in there as far, and you might not be able to get your motor on there or your wheel on. So flat part straight down in the groove, make sure it's flat. It's hard to do through a camera. There we go. Okay, and then you just drop your wheel. Has the same groove cut out of it. Drop that wheel. Line up your groove. Drop that wheel right down on there. Then you take your lock washer. Bam. Teeth side up. Here's a new screw head. Make sure you start that with your fingers so you don't cross thread it. And then switch. I'm going to draw that down, make sure that doesn't come loose. Okay. There you have it. Wheel back on. Now we can put the shroud back on and go to the other side. Okay, other side's wheel came off just as easy. Just looking just as nasty. Look at this. That's definitely oil. We have an issue. Got all of that up inside of that motor. Just gets wrapped around so tight. Sucks right inside there. Blows that motor up. No doubt in my mind. That's one of the issues of the fault codes you're getting on the joystick. But I have already taken the shroud off, exposing the motor heads. Don't need to waste your time doing that. We went over it a little bit earlier. Should you ever choose or need to replace your circuit breaker, that is right here, right there with a screw. So if this constantly keeps popping, or whatever the case may be, why you need to replace that, that's where it is. That is also the first place you need to check in case your chair does not have power. That is a surge protector in case the chair, while it's plugged in or even while it's operating, has a little power surge, and before it blows your motors or electronics, it will pop that breaker to kind of protect your electronics. So chair doesn't work, push that first. First question you should ask on the phone if their chair has no power is have you touched or looked for the circuit breaker. So little tool. But I'm going to get this motor off of here, get the nasties, transfer over the switch, and hopefully get this thing back together and back to this patient before closing time. Just took the back row of screws out. They are short. Short goes in back, long goes in front. Getting ready to take out the back or the front ones. Bet you those are long. Long ones. Okay. Got the motor released. Same thing as before. Cut your zip tie. Follow your wire. Unplug from the module. And off you go. Okay, the motor is off. Got the lever off, ready to put back on there. Already got the hole out. And I got that piece sticking up waiting. Now this can be a pain, man. I'm just telling you right now, it can frustrate you if you don't take your time with it, because that thing, as soon as you drop this on there, it will drop. And if you don't line up your Allen exactly to meet inside that hole, eventually their patient is going to be turning this lever to go in neutral and in drive, and it's going to slip and they're not going to be able to do it. So if you have people that are complaining that their motor will not go in and out of gear, first place to look. It's that Allen head right there. Tighten it up. Make sure it goes all the way inside the hole. If you get it gets completely tight and you still see, focus, fool. If you still see threads exposed, you don't have that threaded in the hole. That should be flat against the bottom of that metal. You shouldn't see any threads exposed. That's a good indicator that you got it in there all the way. And here you have it. All the way in, threads are not exposed, and you can see inside there that it is inside that metal. So just to do a little function check, drive is backwards that way, which it is in, does not move. Forward, you spin it. Now it should turn, which it does. So, booyah. Okay, once again, you take the front screws out. Okay, front screws out. Make sure that the front, when you put them back in there, are not the screws that you take out of there. They're the long ones that we took out before. Unless the manufacturer sent you new ones of these, you'll probably have to reuse them. But check for cross threading. The last thing you want to do is cross thread those right there. They are a pain, and you can tap them, but you're going to get the metal shavings down inside the motor, and that's definitely a pain. So take those off, and then you're ready for mount. Okay, so I got the motor on. Still got to wire it and put the shroud back on. Then it's time to start buttoning her up. Getting close to the end. Looks a little funky without that wheel cover, but I didn't show you how to do the last one, so I guess I'll do this one. This has a little groove in it. You got to put it inside that little channel right there. So I believe I got this thing. It's this little tab. Kind of lift up on it and then drop it in there, and then you can tighten your two screws. That's all there is to it. 2 Phillips screws. Okay, so here you have it. I didn't show you how to take off the foot plate before, but I will show you how to put it back on. It's just the exact opposite of that. So if you remember correctly before, when we unplugged the joystick from the chair, this was sticking up outside. So I'm going to kind of pin that up. And that wire, there's a little notch cut out of the top of this shroud, should go through there. So once you get tucked back up underneath, and then you can put your holes and match them up with those, and then put your screws back in. And there you go. Foot plate. Here you have it. Just tracks down inside of that little boy right there. Connects fix with a through bolt. So, bend it down. Okay, back on there now. You gotta put a through bolt through that. And then your foot plate is secured and it's ready for the seat. Okay, my bad. When you stick it through the hole, there is a threaded piece that goes through the bottom with a large washer. That is not a through bolt because it has an extension up. So that is that. Okay, so I lifted the seat up and put it down on the base. I have not latched it in yet, but you want to make sure under there you're around the pipe, and then this trigger is unlocked because when you push down on it, it should just lock right into place. So let's see where we're off. Gotta get that seat back in. Give me just a second to get this situated. Alright, now I got that completely around that bar on the back side. Now all you have to do is just push down. And that should flip into place. And then you flip your tab down. So if that doesn't go on there right away, you're probably going to have to push it back and then pull down hard until that clips, and then you put your latch down. So now it's attached. Take this bus cable around the back of the chair like we had before, up underneath to the front, and then we can plug it in. And that will get us power once we put the batteries back in. Well, we're getting down to it now. We just got the batteries to put back in. We can test to see if this chair works. Slide it over. Make it so when it goes in, your battery terminal plug is facing you. Okay, slide her back in there. Okay, so I got that slid back. Now what you want to do with this cable to get it out of the way, you don't want it to get pinched or crushed by your other battery when you put it in. Just take it and drape it around the outside caster wheel to kind of get it out of your way. And then same thing with this other one. Battery terminal. Pull it and face it towards you and then slide it in. Keep it out of the way, don't pinch those clips. Alright, got that battery back. Just plug them back in. 1, 2, and then you should go up here, push on your dynamic, lights. Now before we had a 3 flash, no motor, flash code error. Chair was not functional, now it will move. The battery back over on. Take that up under there and screw those two in. Alright guys, as always, we want to make sure that anything else on here that is needed to be replaced, repaired, tightened, moved around, shifted, ordered is done before you take the chair back. Now I noticed shaking these armrests that these are a lot loose. They should be very tight. So what I'm going to do, if I can find it, Allen wrench, just straight down in the back of that armrest. If you follow the elbow down, you'll see a little Allen wrench hole. Give that a good tighten down, one on each side. There should be one in front and one in back. Really draw that down. I'll get that when I'm off the phone here. Tighten that down, that should sure up that armrest. So, and you move on to the other side. Do the same thing. Now if it still moves, could be back here in this pin. Give that a good tighten up. Do the same with this other side. This doesn't have a swing away on it, so that should be good. That joystick arm is pretty good. It does have a tear right here. We want to monitor that, so if it gets down into here, that could leave padding exposed to the skin. We don't want that to have skin breakdown issues. Did notice back here, got a chunk taken out of that back wheel, and that's not anything huge major right now. These are solid tires. Those will want to be replaced sometime soon, because if you hit a good bump, those can completely split, and then you're rolling on just rim, and that's just like your car. You don't want that. So here it is, guys. I'm going to tighten this thing up, give it a little wipe down, and get it back in to the patient. Hope you learned a few things today. Keep it tuned. This is a Jazzy Elite HD double motor replacement.